Welcome everyone, I'm Jake Monica and this is Morse Versum. Today we'll be taking a closer look at the lyrics of the album A Tear in the Fabric of Life by Knocked Loose. So if you're new to this channel, we dive deep into metal lyrics. We go over the whole spectrum, different genres and subgenres of metal and death metal. We go over the themes, meanings, and storytelling behind the words of these amazing albums. So with that, let's get back to the video. Knocked Loose, if you don't know, is a hardcore band formed back in 2013 from Oldham County, Kentucky. A Tear in the Fabric of Life came out in 2021. It's technically the band's second EP, but they have 3 other full-length albums. It was written by the band during the pandemic. It's about a road trip gone wrong. A passenger dies. There's passengers that survive, survivor's guilt, and then a reunion and death. For me personally, one of my greatest fears is getting into a car accident and surviving. Being just debilitated, forever changed. After the car wreck, I'll never be the same. That's one of my greatest fears. So listening to this album, it really resonates with me on that level. So with that, let's get into it. The first set of lyrics we're going to get into come from the song Where Light Divides the Hollow.
A tear in the fabric of life.
So given the context of this album, these lyrics indicate something pretty haunting. Something you would expect of someone suffering through survivor's guilt. Inside my head, you say, "I told you so" speaks to that. The survivor kind of catastrophizes the events, compounding the depression that they already would be feeling anyways, regardless. So it's already bad enough, but they're going through these things in their head and they're kind of making it worse. They're needlessly making it much harder on themselves. We should have left before the storm is another example of this. Talking about it in hindsight, it's always easier to sit back and after the fact say what you should have done. A tear in the fabric of life for me is a metaphor for them losing their friend and their life forever being changed. A tear could represent some sort of scarring that occurs and the fact that they will never be the same after that event. That's the tear. The line, "we have each other and that's all we'll ever need," is always extremely emotive to me. It's one of my favorite lines to scream in the car when I'm listening to the song. In a way, it kind of says everything will be all right in an attempt to find some sort of comfort in this traumatic experience. And it also kind of foreshadows what's going to happen later on in the album as well. The next song we're going to get into is Forced to Stay. This song happens to be my absolute favorite song of the album. I could easily do a video on this song alone, but I decided just to choose these sets of lyrics to talk about. It's the imagery for me that really connects me to these lyrics. The blood denies the rose to carry only memories of loss is a line, it's a really good example of a line performing a transition from something that's happening physically, literally, to something that's happening metaphorically. And I really like that. It kind of takes you on this little mini journey through that transition. A vigil on the side of the road is such a good line to me. You know, too often in metal and in death metal, you get caught up in all of these existential like ideas, things that are ideological, but I love lines like this where you know exactly what it's talking about. Everyone has seen those on the side of the road where it's like a cross with a bunch of flowers on it, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. It's not always just a cross. I've seen some where it's like a bicycle, where it could have been a kid got hit riding their bike and they died. But everyone knows what that is, what that looks like. And for everyone, obviously it solicits a different type of emotion. Some people drive right by it, don't even notice it, don't care. Some people, like me, if I catch it, if I see it, it kind of makes it a little bit more real. I think about shit like that, especially the older I get. It doesn't make me depressed or anything. Like, it's not going to ruin my day, but it does make me think more seriously about my family. And it's such a good line. I can't express that enough. The last four lines of this are great, and the most important thing I think to figure out about these lines is who are the ones crying out. He's being set on fire and being judged and being screamed at by all of these people, but who are they? I subjectively think that it's the person that didn't make it. I think it's their family and friends and everyone they've ever known or would have known in unison asking him why, as if everyone in that person's life blames the other person in one way or another. Like, why couldn't it have been him instead, type of thing. So yeah, I think the most important thing to figure out about those is who is doing the screaming, who's doing the yelling. The next set of lines come from the song Contorted in the Fail. So the lead up to these lyrics is that the survivor is in the deceased friend's house and they're just leaning into the guilt. They're leaning into the depression hard. These lyrics to me are about the person that's taking a drink of alcohol in that person's house and they're having a visceral reaction to it. I believe that's because the accident might have been alcohol related. Why else would there be this severe reaction to drinking alcohol? Sets fire to my memory, speaks to that as if it's them recalling the emotions and the turmoil that they were feeling in those moments. Left destitute is them getting drunk, remembering how the events unfolded, and they sink into the feeling that they're going through on the floor, just purely existing in this sad state, rotting. That's where I think that I rot comes from. They're just rotting on the floor, drunk, stuck in that sad, depressed state, thinking about that night. And there's something to be said about that too. I will admit that I am kind of like that as well, or at least I used to be. I haven't been that way in a while. Where if something happens and you go through some sort of depression, or not even like depression, it's something just more numbing than that, and you kind of just lean into it, you just become this useless piece of shit basically, and you just get drunk and you might pass out in public in some sort of parking lot and you don't give a shit, and then the sun wakes you up and then you stagger back home. I've been there before. So, and I think to some extent, it might not be specifically that, but I think we've all done that where we kind of lean into it and we're just kind of like, fuck it, and you just go for it. For me, subjectively, I think that's kind of needed. It helps me get through it. It's like, all right, I did it. I did the thing. Now I can move on with my life, right? So moving on, the last set of lyrics we're going to talk about come from the song Permanent. So this being the last song of the album, it ends in a climax where the survivor wants to be reunited with their dead friend. The guilt just becomes way too much. For the shepherd me lines, I envision the ghost of their friend, which has been alluded to throughout the album, the ghost of their friend, guiding them by the hand through walls of stone, ultimately to the wooded valley where, the survivor would ultimately join them. Teach me the blade, I think, is a pretty literal line. It's not explicitly said how the survivor reunites with their friend. Teach me the blade kind of gives you the answer right there. A knife, somehow, they're going to in their life. They're going to right the wrong and correct their guilt. Or we could take it at face value. It's the only way their love is saved is to be reunited. A suitable ending to the story where the survivor ultimately takes her own life in an effort to reunite with their friend and to absolve them of all of the guilt that they're feeling, and just to end it, in a literal sense. They don't have to feel that way anymore. And this album is just kind of, it goes through what that person goes through mentally. And I think this happens in real life more often than not. And so it's really cool to see an album explore that concept for us to get a little insight into how the vocalist of Knock Loose would go through that. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of this amazing album. What does it all mean? What's your favorite lines that I missed? Let me know what albums I should cover in the future. I'm always willing to take suggestions. I'll add it to my list and I'll get to them. But yeah, thank you. Until next time, this has been Morse Person.